Well, this has become another really tough video to make. This is about shading and the shading editor. And the problem here is that shading, rendering, lighting, and possibly even compositing, they all fold into each other. And along the way, there are a lot of concepts to talk about. Hey, look at that. That just happened. What the heck is that about? And so I want to try to make this just as simple as I possibly can, and I want to show you how to change the color of the cube. And I'm not talking about this up here, the matte caps that we did before. So this is done in shading, and if you hear me say shader editor, that's what I'm talking about here. So we go to shading and we see this. Well, I got a few things going on, but right now you see that there's a cube, it's all white, and that is because we're over here in what is called material preview mode. We're gonna come back to that in a second. I also wanna mention that this used to be called look dev mode, and so if you hear people referring to it as that, that's what they're talking about. So I want you to go to solid mode. Well, actually you don't have to, but you probably will already be there. And this is why I'm shifting to this, because there is going to be a problem and it might cause some frustration if you don't understand it. So in order to add a new material, I'm going to come down here to new. I can also go over here to the side where it says material preview and I can hit new. Both exactly the same. I can go to layout mode out here. I can see this and I can go to material, new, same thing. Okay, so just to let you know, it's in a few different places. So I'm going to come down here, and when I hit new, it's going to create this entity down in this area that we call nodes, and it is a huge concept. And right now we're going to just see the beginning of it. And well, here, I'll click this and it shows up. Let's move this out of the way. And I want to tell you that this is basically programming with blocks. So these here are, oops, click in the background. These are nodes, these are noodles, or whatever you want to call them, strings. And this particular one, the principled BSDF, which is bidirectional scattering distribution function, it is kind of our basic one. It doesn't have to be here. You can swap this one out with a different type of one, but they all start with it, okay? And so what you're seeing is an input and then to an output. If I disconnect this, then it will go away, but there's nothing there to go away yet. So let me show you this. We're gonna only do a couple things here. Change the color. So I'm gonna hit change the color here, and maybe I'll make it magenta. You'll notice that nothing changes. And the reason for that is because we're in solid view. That's why I had you do that. So if you come up here and you go to material preview, you see why it's named that. So you go here and now we see that it is pink. And if I want to change the color around, you can see that happen in real life. Now, you also see in the background that there's some type of an image, and that is HDRI, and that's high dynamic range imaging, and that is more than just a background. You can see there's something, it's kind of like a fence, it's over here as well. What happens with an HDRI, there's many out there, there's HDRI Haven where you can get tons and tons for free. It's about lighting. So you can put lights out here and you can change the color of the lights, which we will do probably in almost our next video possibly. But sometimes either you don't want to deal with it or it's just not, it's too tough because you're trying to change the colors and you're trying to get it to be realistic, and HDRI takes the light from the image and reflects it down onto the cube here, so it gives it a lot, well, it's a lot faster to get a decent lighting setup and it looks more realistic for a certain type of situation. Okay, so color. So we've got this light blue color now, and now if I come down here and I hit metallic, I can turn that up, and so that's fun to play with. There are, I felt like a lot of people out there say that it's either 0 or 1. I've heard people talk about it that way a lot. You do what you want to do because you can modify this. You know, just because maybe one version is, it's either like things in life are either dielectric or metals. You know, you don't have to think that way. You know, it's art. So we bring this up all the way, and that doesn't look very metallic, and that's because the default roughness is about halfway up here. So if I take the default roughness and I bring it down, now you can see I'm reflecting that HDRI incredibly well right here. And then there's, what is this, some woods and a little forest down here and some fence, right? So that would be great if we're making a mirror, and I don't find that that's really usually the case. So you often, as cool as these things might look, you usually spend a lot of time messing it up a bit to make it look real life. There's hardly any polished surface out there unless you're modeling up some kind of reflective dish for optics or something, that everything's going to have something like some fingerprints, some smudge, some dirt, some grime on it, and that's what you do down here in the nodes. There are many nodes. Remember Shift A? You've seen me use this before. Sorry, the keys aren't on. Well, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but anyways, Shift A is to like add a cube, add a thing, add a whatever. And so if you do that down here in nodes, now we've got things like different types of inputs. Look at all this stuff. Different types of outputs, different types of shaders, textures. My God, there is a lot of stuff here. So this is something you can play around with it because it's yours. You can do whatever you want, but I would suggest get good with the basic stuff first, and then reach out a little bit and try to fold that new thing into your flow. So now let's go here and let's bring the roughness back up a little bit, right? And that might be more fitting for what you're looking at, but I'm going to leave it like that for mine. Now I'm going to bounce back over to modeling, and I'm going to go here, make sure I'm in edit mode, and I'm just going to grab everything and add a bevel onto this and scroll it up a little bit, so just like we did before. So now I have this, but I didn't do a thing from the last video. So I go back to shading, and it looks pretty good, but you notice we have this tessellation on here. So what do we need to do with that? We got to go back over here, and we'll go into object mode, right click on this, and shade smooth. Now remember, if we hit shade smooth, you're probably going to want to come over here and want to go to your normals and auto smooth it out and pick the right angle so that everything that's smooth looks smooth and everything that's sharp still looks sharp. Now if I go back over here to shading, we have got a really nice looking cube. Let me bring this down. We can roll that around.